In this video, we will explore the properties of similar triangles and use those properties to find missing sides and missing angles. Now, this is part 2, so we've already done problems 1, 2, and 3. So if you haven't seen the previous video, you should go back and watch that first. All right, for problem number 4, we are given that the two triangles are similar. All right, triangle ABC is definitely similar to this other triangle. It's just a matter of which are the corresponding angles. So look at the markings that they gave us. Side A is congruent to side F. So that's why when I write my similarity statement, not congruent, similarity, if A is first, then that means F will be the first one in that triangle. And then next is B, which is double marked. That means that D is next with its double mark. All right, that leaves C, which is plane. It must be corresponding with E, which is also plane. Okay, so these are the matchups. So now, what about it? What about it? We're given that side AB is 13, so we can go ahead and put that in the picture. AB is 13. BC is 10, so this is 10. What else are we given? Angle A is 48 degrees. And I guess we're given all this information as well. So DE is 5, so this is going to be 5. EF is 5.5, so this is 5.5. And angle D is 54 degrees. I'll have to zoom in for that one, because it's not very big. Angle D is 54 degrees. Okay, so armed with that knowledge, I need to find everything else. So, what can I do? Well, first I can change colors. I look at these corresponding angles. So I see that angle D is 54 degrees. See the double mark? That tells me that angle B is also 54 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. All right, so angle B, that's 54 degrees. But that gives me 2 out of 3 angles in triangle ABC. So I should be able to subtract these two from 180 to find the third angle. So if I go 180 minus 54 minus 48, that leaves 78 for angle C. And that is the blank angle, which corresponds with blank angle E. So that means this is also 78. So C and E are 78. Okay, notice that we know that this single marked angle, angle A, is 48. That means that angle F with the single mark must also be 48. So angle F is also 48. All right, now we have all of the angles in both triangles. So now let's find some sides. Okay, I think I'm going to switch colors again as I talk about the sides. Okay, let's talk about corresponding sides. Now, did they give us the similarity statement? Well, we made the similarity statement, but we know that because AB is first and FD is first, then AB corresponds to FD. Okay, so I'm gonna box those. AB corresponds to FD. All right, so box, box. We know that BC corresponds to DE because they're both last. BC and DE. Okay, so here's BC, circle, and here's DE, circle. All right, so I'm marking corresponding sides with the same shape. And that just leaves side CA, which I'll use a triangle for that, and side FE. You know what, I'm going to use a heart. My students in my second period class, they tried to shame me because I thought the heart was adorable. But you know what? I like the heart. I'm going to use it anyway. Can't shame me. Trying to heart shame people. It's not right. This is 2018. People can use hearts if they want. Anyway, so now I've matched up all the corresponding sides. Now, look at the two squares. Do they both have numbers? No. Look at the two hearts. Do they both have numbers? No. Look at the two circles. Boom! It's all about the two circles. They both have numbers. That's where my scale factor is going to come from. Okay? Now, I'm going to look at this as being the old triangle, and I'm going to look at this one as being the new triangle. So I'm going from old to new. So of course, remember that the scale factor is always going to be new divided by old. Okay, always keep that in mind. So looking at the corresponding sides where we have both numbers, the 10 and the 5, I need to do the new number divided by the old number. So the scale factor will be 5 divided by 10. So that's why I'm going to put scale factor 5 over 10, which of course reduces down to 1/2. Okay, so keep this in mind. This is the scale factor. So now let's look at some of the sides that we are missing. For example, look at the corresponding sides with the squares. Okay, so my old side is AB, and my new side, corresponding side, is DF. So if I take the old side and multiply by the scale factor, that should give me the new side. But we know that AB is 13. Okay, so half of 13, that should equal DF. And, all right, of course, half of 13 is going to be 6.5. Let's just keep getting so small. Okay, you probably do not need a calculator for that, but just in case, there you go. So we know that DF is going to be 6.5. DF, FD, same thing. So that's going to be 6.5. Not sure why the decimal was already there, but I decided to use it. And so that's it for the squares. Now let's look at the hearts. Okay, the hearts are corresponding sides. So that's AC and FE. So I know that AC and FE are corresponding sides. So if I take the old side, multiply by the scale factor, that should equal the new side. But in this case, it's the new side that I know. FE is 5.5. So 1/2 of AC should equal 5.5. So how do I solve this? Well, just look at that denominator. I just need to multiply both sides by 2. So if I multiply both sides by 2, that will cancel these out, and that will leave AC by itself. Okay, so then I should have AC equals 5.5 times 2. All right, that should be 11. And there you go. So AC is equal to 11. That's same as CA. So kabam. All right, and that's it. We now have all of the unknown sides and angles for both triangles. Okay, so in problem number 5, I'm going to have to mark my own angles. So let's start with the vertical angles, because we know vertical angles are always congruent, so that means these two angles are definitely going to be congruent. Now, these little arrows mean that these lines are parallel. So normally what I do is I will highlight the parallel lines as I'm trying to figure out where my alternate interior angles are. So if these lines are parallel, then I can look at this as the transversal, and that's going to give me one pair of alternate interior angles. So looking at this Z, hopefully you can see that I've got a corner going right here. All right, and I've got a corner going right here. This is really small, so I'm going to do my best. So those are going to be corresponding angles because they are alternate interior angles on parallel lines, so they should be congruent. But I could just as easily have used this line as the transversal. Okay, and if you look at it that way, then that puts this angle in the corner. Okay, and that's going to correspond with angle E down here. So I just barely have enough room to mark that. So now I've marked all my corresponding angles, which should make it very easy to make the similarity statement. Might have to zoom out a bit. So here comes the similarity statement. Angle A corresponds with angle E. So since angle A is first, I'm going to put angle E first. Next comes angle B, which corresponds with angle D. So D comes next. And last comes angle C, which corresponds with angle C in the tiny triangle. So there goes angle C. Okay. I think I'm just going to use my similarity statement this time. All right, I think it'll be a little bit less messy. So as long as I'm confident in my similarity statement, which is very important, then I know that, for example, side AB corresponds with side ED. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. So side AB corresponds with side ED. Okay, I guess they're calling it DE, so I'm going to call it DE. Okay, in a similar way, I see that side BC will correspond with side DC. So BC corresponds with DC. Okay, I guess they called it CD, so I'll call it CD. Okay, and then AC, the first and the last, will correspond with EC. All right, so AC will correspond with EC. Okay, so now I've got that. So next I'm going to write in whatever numbers they gave me. So, for example, AB is 28. So I know that this is going to be 28. All right, CA is 20. CD is 9. And EC is 5. All right, this is the only pair where I have all the numbers. I have both numbers. So I'm going to use this to get my scale factor. I'm going to look at this triangle as the old, and I'm going to look at this side as being the new. So with that in mind, the scale factor, which I like to use K to represent the scale factor, we know that the scale factor is always going to be new divided by old. Okay, so that means my scale factor is going to be 5 divided by 20, and that simplifies down to 1/4. So there's my scale factor of 1/4. Now, I should be able to use that to find other stuff. So for example, look at AB and DE. All right, so 1/4 times AB should equal DE. All right, I should be able to use that. Similarly, 1/4, all right, maybe I'll put some lines in here. Similarly, 1/4 times BC should equal CD. Okay, now in this first equation, I know that AB is 28. So that gives me 1/4 times 28 is equal to DE. In the second equation, I know that CD is 9. So 1/4 times BC is equal to 9. I should be able to solve both of these pretty easily. The first one, I'm just doing 1/4 times 28. Now, hopefully you don't need a calculator for that. Multiplying by 1/4, that's the same thing as dividing by 4. So 28 divided by 4 is 7. So that tells me that DE is equal to 7. Okay, so I might as well fill that in. DE is 7. Now this one over here, if I want to get BC by itself, the easiest thing to do would be to multiply both sides by 4. All right, that will cancel these out. And that will leave me with BC is equal to 36, because 9 times 4. Okay, so BC is in fact 36. So that's it for the missing sides. Now the missing angles should be relatively easy. The measure of angle A is 95. So angle A is 95. That corresponds with angle E. So angle E should also be 95. Okay, angle B is 36. So this is 36. That corresponds with angle D. So angle D should also be 36. All right, that just leaves the vertical angles, the two vertical angles. Well, if we subtract from 180, that should give us the missing angle. All right, so the vertical angles should be both 49. And that's it. We found all missing sides and missing angles. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.